Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Join us as we seek the truth and travel the long road to justice. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi Fruit Loop. Are you cold today? Because I'm freezing.
It is cold and rainy here. It's nasty. We actually had snow flurries or something.
Yeah, I saw that. Not liking that at all.
Yeah.
I want my warm weather back. I'm not built. I mean, it's good if you're having a hot flash, because I have been known at 4 a.m. when I wake up in a hot flash during the winter to just go stand on the front porch and you can literally see steam coming off of me.
I love cold weather. I'd rather be cold than hot.
I could never live somewhere that's cold, like super cold. So anyways, we want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Two Cool T-Shirt Quilts. You can look behind me and see two of those, Clemson and a Pretty Lies pillow. So go check out www.twocooltshirtquilts.com/Pretty Lies and Alibis and check them out. And what can they do, Fruit Loop?
They can take your T-shirts and make them into a quilt that is too cool.
Nice. So we want to give a big thank you to Cindy for the PayPal donation. We really appreciate that.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you very much. So real quick, before we get into these document dumps, Letitia Stout was in court today and she entered a plea of not guilty to first-degree murder in the murder of Gannon and also to 12 other charges. So did she
flip off did she turn off any light switches?
She did not. She sat there and kind of rocked a little bit from what they said. It wasn't televised, but there were some locals live tweeting. And so I retweeted them. And yeah, so she has a new attorney. His name is Josh Tolini. And now, if you remember, she was going to represent herself.
Yep.
Didn't work out. And so now she has this new guy, and he says that they're going to introduce evidence of Letitia's mental condition after she murdered Gannon, not before or during. And this is not an insanity plea from what he said. And it seems a little bit confusing to me and also to the judge, because the judge was like, well, this is not typical. So the district attorney made clear that he wants reports of what evidence they're going to be presenting so that they can prepare. And the state also said if the defense will bring up mental health again, she'll need to be tested at a state hospital. Now, she has been deemed competent twice.
Yeah.
And January of this year was the last time that they said she was fit for trial. And the judge said it's kind of odd that they're only talking about a specific time frame regarding her mental health. And he just said she's going to need another evaluation. And so the judge said they'll want to talk to her about the crime as well as after. And her defense attorney said that they would object to that. They don't want to talk to her about before or during the murder of Gannon.
That's weird.
Yeah, I think this probably is going to be about moving the remains, having them in the car, taking them to Florida. I don't know, because that's the only thing I could really sort of, if they're not going to talk about the murder itself, then after would just be everything, the way she acted, talking to that reporter when we kind of think maybe Gannon's body was in the car.
Yeah, my thing is this. She's already went through 2 evaluations and passed now.
Right.
So,
yeah,
it's just weird.
It is weird. So What did he say about the last time that they evaluated somebody?
So they said it took a long time, and he says the case is already way behind. He asked the defense to brief what they are doing. He says he hasn't seen something raised this way, and it's not that it is improper, but it could create some legal issues. The district attorney requested access to what they're doing so they can prepare, but the judge says he will wait to see what her attorney files.
Yep.
So I think they'll be back for a hearing on December 9th at 1:30.
Yeah, that's going to be kind of an update, I think, about what is happening with this, from what I understand.
Yeah, the trial is expected to start on March 28th and should last about 6 weeks.
It's going to be a long one.
Yeah, there will be a motions hearing on January 6th at 1:30 and a pretrial hearing on March 17th at 9 a.m.
Yeah, so I'm fully expecting, I do think this one's going to be streamed maybe. If it is, I will cover that trial entirely. That's going to be a really good one to watch. And so why don't you tell everybody about the new thing we're going to start doing starting this Saturday?
Yeah, so this is kind of cool. We had some people reach out to us a good many times about missing persons, and we're going to start doing a segment on Saturday. That's all it's going to be on Saturday is we're going to cover a missing person's case and just give you an update and what's going on. We're just going to, and you people have already started sending in.
I know. I haven't done a whole lot today because I've kind of hit that point in the house where I got to do stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So
yeah. I kind of took the lead on this one, and we're going to do it on Saturday.
Really excited. Now, these may be 10 minutes. They're not going to be super long. Some cases have a lot more out there as far as what we're backstory or things like that. Some of them are just very basic. Now, the case that we're going to cover on Saturday, you've been in touch with her mom today.
Yep, I've spoken to her mom off and on. Awesome lady. What she's going through and stuff. I mean, just she's a fireball. Yep.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think you have to be in these situations because one of the big things during the Gabby Petito case was a lot of people out there who have missing loved ones say, oh, man, we wish we could get that much publicity.
Yeah.
And we do too. So it's something we've talked about for a while. We kind of threw out there maybe doing some cold cases, but I think this right now is more important just because there are people looking at a case from 30 years ago is important. Don't get me wrong, but we have people that are recently missing and some of these guys are so young.
Yeah. And the thing with this first one we're doing, she was sold in human trafficking. So our listeners are all over the world.
Right.
So this is important.
We just felt like this was a way to occupy that time where maybe a little bit of difference could be made for something that's very current. I still want to do cold cases, but we feel really called right now to do missing persons.
Yep.
So we're going to start that Saturday. Very excited. Now we're going to pick up with Melanie Gibb. Man, I'm kind of tired of hearing that name, Fruit Loop. Oh man.
Yeah. This interview was long, kind of.
It was long and I'm still not done taking notes, but anyway, so if you guys remember when we left off, this was when Melanie Gibb had spent the night at Lori's, and then Lori told her she had to leave because Charles was coming in town to kill her. Chad had Googled when you surprise someone with accusations, and then Lori and Chad had talked for an hour and 18 minutes, and that's kind of where we left off. So we're going to pick up right where we were. So Lori tells Melanie that Satan is attacking her, and she said it's giving her a bad headache, and she just talked a lot about how bad she felt. Melanie said that Lori was always on the phone with Chad. Melanie said she would kind of separate herself from Lori when she was talking to him and wouldn't pay a whole lot of attention. She said partially she didn't pay attention to Lori a lot because of what she says is Lori's drama. And she said Lori would get into a whirlwind, and Melanie said she was outside of that whirlwind because she isn't a drama queen. So backing up to January 30th, the investigators take it back here and say there was an argument with Lori and Charles. So if we go back from something we've already covered, January 30th seemed to be the day that Lori just decided she was done. This is the day she steals the $35,000 from Charles. That's the day that Charles texted Lori. He's coming home that night. And we talked about this in a previous episode. Investigators say looking through Lori and Charles's texts before January 30th, there really wasn't any evidence of marital problems. This came on fast and furious, but we also know that Chad was Googling possession and things like that at this point. So at 4:06 p.m., Lori texts her mom, her sister, Melanie Pulowski, and Alex. Please do not answer the phone if Charles calls you. We're in a big argument. He's looking for people to be on his side. Thank you. I love you all. This was 2 days after Chad began searching Google for Ned Schneider and body possession. So Iplos.
I'm telling you, his Google searches. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a dad using Google that doesn't know much about the internet.
Okay, I want to be the investigator that had to investigate that and be like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Clearly they weren't smart enough to know you don't Google on your own devices when you're about to commit major crimes. But I can't wait to see what else comes out in the trial for Chad, because we really haven't heard a ton about his stuff. It's mainly been Lori, Alex, Melanie, Zulema, because this really is about the investigation into Charles's murder.
Yep.
So I'm sure we'll have a lot of stuff to talk about once all that hits wherever it's going to hit. So Iplos was first seen mentioned on Zulema's text messages. And Melanie told authorities that Iplos was a combination of dark spirits that occupied Charles's body after Ned Schneider left his body. So January 31st, that's also the day that Lori, Melanie, and Tylee went to the police department about Charles taking her purse. And that's also when Lori learned that there was an order for her to have a mental health evaluation. And Melanie said that Lori had told her, don't worry, I know how to handle the police. So when Lori was talking to the police officer, telling them Charles had committed adultery, the officer asked for proof, or asked if she had proof. And Lori told him she did, but later, she wasn't asked to show any proof. But later, when Melanie asked if she really did, Lori said, nope, sure don't.
Yep. So the investigator asked Melanie why she thought Lori was accusing Charles of cheating. She said Lori was saying at this point that Charles was Ned Schneider, which we know, and she was going to do everything she could to paint Charles as bad as she could, but nobody would believe he was Ned Schneider. So she thinks Lori was using this to make him just look bad, creating a monster, and Melanie said, which he absolutely wasn't. She said Lori was creating reasons to leave him. That's sad that you have to lie and just say all this bad stuff about somebody.
Yeah.
To make people believe you.
Right. But the thing is, Lori has to be the victim. So instead of saying, hey, I found somebody else, he makes me happy. Yeah. He makes my vibrations go to 2000 and I can teleport. Let's get divorced.
Yeah.
I mean, there's this whole plot, and we've said it before. Send JJ to Kay and Larry. Let Tylee go live with her brother.
Yep.
Or whatever. Let him leave his wife. You leave your husband. Y'all do your wackadoodle religion stuff till the second coming.
Yeah.
But I don't know why everybody had to die.
I don't know either. Unless it's that money.
Oh, yeah. I think it's a combination of things. I don't think it was just the religion. I don't think it was just life insurance policies. I don't think it was just anything.
Yep. So the first time Melanie heard Ned Schneider was January. Melanie says she heard of it before January 31st. So Lori was on the phone with Chad, and Melanie was in Lori's house. And Melanie says she remembers where Lori was in the house when she told her, coming back in the back door, because she had been on the phone with Chad. Lori said Chad told her Charles had become Ned Schneider. So he's Googling Ned Schneider, and he's telling Lori that Charles is now Ned Schneider. The names Lori used referring to Charles was Ned, Garrett, Iplos. Melanie said Lori pronounces it Iplos.
Iplos.
Iplos, who was a combination of evil spirits. She isn't aware of anyone else being referred to as Eplos. When asked about the context of the different names for Charles, Melanie said Chad would be the one to name the dark spirits. Of course he would, because he's Googling them.
Right. Yeah. Here's my thing. If he has this thin veil and he can communicate with the spirit world, well, how would he need to Google names for a demon possessed person?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many holes in the story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So Ned was the childhood friend of Charles that died and attached himself to Charles. Studying him for years, he was an unclean spirit that never left Earth after death and pushed Charles's spirit from his body and took over. Melanie said she didn't know if Lori totally believed it, but she mostly believed it. She believed Charles was totally gone and was treating him like Ned Snyder. Lori's going to believe whatever Chad tells her.
Yeah. That day, it was, hey, I think your husband's Ned Snyder. Oh, don't talk to him. We're getting divorced. I mean, it wasn't even...
Yeah.
We're having problems or anything like that. She went from 0 to 60 with that, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah. So she said, like I said on TV, if Chad is a Satan, he's a good one. So she said there was some doubt and probably about Lori, but everyone doubted. So here the investigator starts naming off things like light, dark spirits, light spirits, number scores. Melanie said she knows all about the levels. She said Chad frameworked it all. It's like a video game. When Chad met, hey, you remember those things we used to do in school where it was like number ratings and whatever, like you would have names up here and then it was just all crazy. That's what it is. That's probably what he did.
He just remembers that game from school.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I ever were to do that, I would have to think of a crime centered around the Oregon Trail game.
There you go. Or Clue.
Kill everybody with dysentery.
Yeah, it's Clue. So Lori would draw on paper and say, "This is so cool, Melanie." She said, "This is so cool." Melanie said she took great joy in showing this off. It would be a line and she would explain the numbers such as 4.1. Oh my goodness. So Melanie,
here comes the math. My brain's going to go.
Yeah, it's gone. Melanie starts explaining the numbers corresponding to the number of times you have been on Earth and if you were light or dark. 4.1 was your third time on Earth and was when you made a contract with Satan or Jesus, a light or dark contract. See, if it had numbers in it, I would have said, I'm gone.
I know, right?
I ain't doing it.
So the trust scale, if you remember that, is different than the light and dark scale. You could turn from dark to light, but Lori said Chad told her it was a very hard thing to do. Of course. You remember the light dark scales? You could totally see who Lori had told Chad she didn't like in her family.
Oh, yeah. Everybody that ever said anything bad against Lori was always a dark spirit.
Oh, yeah. So she said they had scales that came up later, but in the beginning, there were no scales or zombies. And she said it was kind of like a rope that got tighter and tighter with more knowledge. And Melanie called it fake knowledge. So the trust scale was 0 to 100% of how much you could trust people. She said she was a 97, but they would always love bomb her and tell her how wonderful she was. So
remember what did he say on the phone?
Hello, sweet Melanie.
Hello, sweet Melanie.
It reminds me of Hannibal Lecter.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So when asked about vibrations, she said Chad would check vibrations using a pendulum. If you reached 1,000, that meant you were translated or beginning your translation. And as you get higher in your vibration, you could portal at some point. Melanie thinks 2,500. The more you went to temple, the more your vibrations increased. Here's my thing. Did anyone ever see anybody teleport?
No, it's magic. You ain't gonna see. You gonna see me, and then you ain't gonna see me.
Everybody was stuck at 2,499.
Exactly right.
Nobody hit the 2,500.
Dude, if I could teleport, y'all would never see me. I'd be teleporting all over the place. Remember, Lori said, it cracked me up a little bit because Zulema said, well, Lori said she teleported from Hawaii to Arizona, but I saw her ticket and I was a little suspicious.
Yeah.
Just like, oh my gosh.
I'd be teleporting to like Disney World.
You ain't kidding. I'd teleport right into the Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh. That would be so awesome.
Yeah. So the investigator talks about zombies. At this point, Melanie said she had learned of it. She says Lori said she had a dream once of an earthquake in Utah and the earth opened and people fell into the earth. The people who fell in the earth's bodies could be used for zombies to enter. So if they got rid of all the zombies on earth, they couldn't use those bodies to re-enter. Chad was always telling Lori about these powers she had, pumping her up. Lori thought she had a priesthood power so she could get a map and say, let's see how many zombies are in Arizona. And Melanie said she didn't remember the number of zombies because it was so out there. She would say a prayer and she would come up with words she thought was powerful. Chad would use the pendulum and tell how many died during Lori's prayer. When asked if it was a physical death, Melanie said yes. Melanie said there was no proof and people die every day and it was ridiculous.
Okay, so I have to say, I've been trying not to laugh when you said 2,499. You got me. All right, you got me good. So during the last episode, we said that Lori was counting the number of people in jail and would say how many died during her prayer. This was actually, now that I've watched the video, it was Melanie giving an example to the police. So I bet they were probably sitting there like, oh boy. So talking about Charles's truck back in January, Melanie said it's a little fuzzy because Lori and Alex were rushing around a lot and it was a little crazy at the time. You don't say.
Yeah.
She said she went back to Lori's house and saw a box of Charles's clothes back behind the food storage, and the other box, as we know, was taken to Goodwill. So Melanie asked Lori if she was going a little bit overboard, and we know that Lori said Jesus told her to do it. Lori was going through some papers in the office. She was looking for passports and something about a computer, and she remembers something about money being transferred. So at one point, she wanted Melanie to follow her while she took the truck to a hotel in Gilbert. And Lori wasn't staying there. She just parked it there. One investigator said she had stayed at a hotel, but Melanie didn't see her at a hotel. So I don't know really what they were talking about. Melanie was with Lori during all this, and she said the moving of the truck was before they went to the police department. That's the one where Tylee was with them. And the next morning, Melanie texts Lori to check in on her, and Charles has her phone because he's got her purse at this point. So he texts Melanie, hey, come to the house and bring the truck. The truck's over at your husband's office. And Melanie says this doesn't sound right. And so she said this, she was wondering if Lori had lost her Fruit Loops.
Hey!
She done lost your Fruit Loop. She said something about getting the keys, and Melanie tells investigators she didn't have the keys, but Charles thought she did, and he was trying to get her help. So Melanie goes over to Lori's, and Lori's car is not there. So this is when the locksmiths were there. She sees those guys working on the door, and Melanie said it was because Charles had busted down the door. I thought he was just trying to get in the house. I don't know. So Charles says,
if you remember, he had to kick that door in the garage.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's all run together at this point. So he says hello to her, and then Melanie asks Charles, where's Lori? She's not here, is she? And he says no, but Charles tells her he needs to talk to her, and Melanie said it was really uncomfortable. I guess so, because it's easy to do things to people when they're not around, but then when you have to stand there and look at somebody and you know the plot kind of against him, I mean, I fully believe she knew more than what she's told investigators. I'm sure it would be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So she says now that she looks back and she kind of grabs her chest and she says, oh, my heart breaks for Charles. He was so caring. And he says to Melanie that Lori's lost it. And she thinks she's a translated being and she's married to Moroni. And she thinks I'm Ted Schneider. And Melanie said, I'm like this. And she kind of just sits there and smiles, like almost like she's listening and smiling to smile. Kind of like you're listening to something you don't want to listen to. And she says, oh man, I didn't know what to say. Man, it was sad. So you kind of see there that Charles ultimately was still, even though she had locked him out of the house, taken his truck, taken his clothes, he was just still worried about her. Like, she's not well. She's married to Moroni. So the investigator asked if they talked about the truck, and she said she really didn't think they did. And Melanie said she gave him a goodbye hug, and she said she was dumbfounded. So she leaves and calls Chad when she gets down the road a bit. And she asks Chad if he knows where Lori is. And Melanie said, Chad, wait. I have typed something up wrong here, y'all.
Ooh.
Mel-
That Chad was clueless, right?
Well, here's the thing. Lori wasn't really supposed to tell anybody about her and Chad, but she did. And so Chad was just sort of acting like he didn't know anything.
Yeah.
But luckily, I mean, Melanie said, luckily Lori spilled the beans about her and Chad. And she said Lori really wasn't one to keep a secret either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what happens next?
So she gets a call and wondered who it was. Lori had gotten a new phone. There's one of the burner phones. Lori says Charles took her purse, and Melanie said, hold on, Jason Mao is right in front of me. And she thought maybe this was some God intervention. She said she stopped by the park on the way out. She said he was sitting there like a good officer, texting on the side of the road. And she says, that's so him. And she tells him what happened, and he told her to go to the police.
So Melanie tells Lori they should go to the police, and Lori said that's a good idea. She said Charles had been in there before, but they didn't know it until they got there. So I guess maybe when they showed up, they said, oh, yeah, your husband's been here. And when asked if she mentioned the truck to Jason, she said she didn't remember, probably not, and probably because it would make them look really bad. You're wanting to go to the police station about a purse, you've stolen a vehicle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the cop said, could you have mentioned anything to him because we've talked to him? So he was sort of leading her like, yeah, I think you did tell him about the truck. And she just says she doesn't remember. She said, I can't remember every conversation in this crazy story.
So the cop asked if she took Lori to the airport to pick up the truck. And Melanie said she didn't go to the airport. Alex did. She said the media got that confused. She kind of put her head in her hand on that.
Yeah.
And we did read somewhere else, so I forgot who said it, but they did say Alex went and got the truck that she remember it was in the text.
Yeah, she told
telling him where it was.
There was $100 bill on the dash. So
Yeah.
I think this is a good place to stop.
Yeah.
There's still a ways to go just with this video. There's a ways to go with these documents, and we'll be doing this until the trumpet sounds and all that good stuff. So what was there? There was a little filing yesterday in Chad's case. I don't think it was mainly just saying that we don't even know who filed it, whether it was the defense or the prosecution, but it says they want the court to allow additional evidence and follow IC 19-1816 by transporting the jury. So I think that has to do with this trial being moved and how they're going to do all that. So, and it's interesting because Chad's trial would have started, I think, this week had he not vacated it. So we'll get there. I still don't think Chad will go to trial before summer of next year, at least, maybe later.
Yep.
Lori, there's no telling. We'll see how long this merry-go-round keeps going.
What is that? The little crank thing, you used to crank and the little clown would pop out?
Oh man. My kids hated it. Of course.
I hated it.
Yeah, I know. I would pull it out and they'd just run off.
It's like that game. I don't forget what it's called. Is it Labyrinth? No, it's not Labyrinth. It's the game where you had to, it was like this, it was like a board and you had to put pieces in the holes. And then when the timer, like a certain time, it would go off and the pieces would just fly everywhere.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. It'd scare you to death. You're like nervous wreck trying to put the pieces in.
There was also the South Carolina grand jury has indicted Alec Murdaugh and Curtis Smith, the guy. This is in relation to the roadside shooting. I haven't got to read everything. I've posted all the filings, but I haven't gotten into it. So we will cover that on the next one. So the next thing is going to be Saturday. We're going to do this missing person case, and then we'll be back at you Monday. I've got a full weekend. You got a full weekend. So you can keep an eye on social media if anything crazy happens. But so we have today's episode, then that new missing person on Saturday. We'll be back with you on Monday. So you guys have a good evening, and we will see you soon.